Hey folks, going to do a little bit of manual arms and going to talk about carrying with the pistol, specifically carry positions with the pistol. So if you have your pistol out, that means you've got work to do with it, either because you're carrying concealed, it's your only weapon, or you'd made a transition to the pistol from a carbine that stopped working. So if I've got my pistol out to do work, it should be pointed out in front of me because I pulled it out to do work. All right, if I don't have work to do with it, then I shouldn't have pulled it out in the first place, or I should be putting it away to get my carbine back up. All right, so I've got work. I should have it generally oriented in front of me and level. So as I present out, right, the sights rise into my eyes. Nice and easy, okay? If I start holding it on angles, right, when I don't need to, that adds extra motion, right? So that changes how the sights are gonna present themselves, and I increase the risk of the sights presenting out, and then I push too hard, and I gotta bring it back into alignment, right? Same thing if I'm coming up, I might push too hard and got to bring it back into alignment. So if there's no one in front of me, right, I can be in a compressed ready position. I can be a little more extended out. That way it's a quick, easy, right? It's just doing that motion. Rising up, the sights are already basically aligned with each other in my hand. I'm just bringing that into alignment with my eyes, all right? Not bringing my head down to it because now I've got more motions going on, less likely to pick up sights quickly, okay? So I should keep it generally out here. Whether you want to keep it retracted in, you want to push out, that's entirely up to you in your training. I tend to keep it retracted in, and that way it's a nice, easy for me. I have control. I'm kind of a smaller overall signature, and it's real quick to present out from there. If I were to start working a door and rolling a door, then I might extend out a little bit more, but kind of the same thing with a carbine. If I have the gun up on my face out here, all right, just as you can see, like my hands and the gun are blocking the logo on my chest from your perspective. All right, right now I'm losing a lot of information down here. So if I keep the gun retracted in, I can see more of what's going on in front of me, and it's still quick to present out and get that first round out. Get the first round out, get my sights again, follow it up as need be. That's why I'm not a fan of basically being presented out but lowering. Right? It can work too, but just like we talked about, if I'm bringing up, I have a chance of overshooting. Right? So the gun's down and I shoot up, I can overshoot it. Again, a lot of things can be fixed with training, but we have to look at the overall efficiency of the movement, all right? Presenting out, pushing the gun out, bringing it into alignment with my eyes is actually gonna be more efficient than snapping up. But the efficiency differences can be negligible depending on your level of training. So you can go back and forth on it. Ultimately, it's how well and how much do you train it, and then work both methods to see which one is overall more efficient with you. Be critical about it. Don't just go with which one is more comfortable for you, okay? So that's obviously meaning guns pushed out or leveled out because I have no one in front of me that I don't want to be pointing the gun at. If I'm working in a team environment or a group environment of some kind, military, law enforcement, you're out with your buddies and shit goes down, I don't want to be pointing my gun at them. Even in an active shooter situation, I'm in Walmart and someone starts blasting up Walmart, just because I don't know all these other people around me doesn't necessarily mean I want to run around pointing my gun at everybody if I'm gonna go hunting this shooter, right? I don't want to do that. So I want to look at alternate carries, and depending on whether or not you're moving, how fast you're moving, can also change how you're going to carry the gun. An easy one that I was taught early on and I still really like it because it's what I was taught and I trained it, is the sole position. All right, you can hold your hands a couple different ways. All right, I like doing this because then I just rotate my hands, or my thumbs rather, right over. So I keep it pinned to my chest. So if I had a plate carrier on, it would be pinned to my gear. That way I know the gun is pretty much straight down. So I'm not worried about flagging anybody. It's not out at an angle where now if I stack up behind somebody, I'm pointing it from this angle, I'm pointing into their pelvic girdle. All right, that'd be bad. So it's straight down, and then I just present out straight like it were right here. I'm just getting my hands in place and rotating the gun over. Again, it's extra movement from right here, so there is always the chance that I might over rotate or under rotate the sights a little bit. That's fixed with training. The more you practice it, the better it's going to be. All right, so that's one position. If need be and I have to run, right, I could run like this, but this is kind of awkward to run and keeping it down, and then this whole time I'm doing this, all right, it's flagging people, not flagging people, flagging, not flagging, right? So again, if I want to move and not worry about muzzle sweeping people I don't want to, then I can bring the gun up. Some people do the temple index. I'm not really sure like where I'm supposed to exactly put my thumb. Maybe the thumb goes to my temple. To me, that is kind of going for lowest common denominator of, hey, I don't have a lot of time to train people. I don't trust their ability to process and think. And so I'm going to come up with a technique that allows me to eliminate risk from them not thinking. I've done posts before about what I think of lowest common denominator, and I do not believe it should be something where we create techniques for stupid people. It should be, we better explain the proper techniques so those of us that are slower can understand. Now, that's my take on what lowest common denominator is supposed to mean, not how it's normally used. So you got temple index, right? That's the thing. But what I see a lot of times from this is that when they have a clear sector again, is they bring the gun down and then push out. Because to chop it, I have a good chance that I'm gonna end up not set in my sights and have to level it, right? So they come down and push out, and it's not always a very smooth transition. I want a smooth transition, and if I'm here, right, this angle, I'm not pointing my gun at anybody that I don't want to, right? So if I'm moving with a team in a stack, I'm moving behind other officers, I'm running around frenzied people in, our scenario of a Walmart active shooter, I'm not pointing my gun at any of them. It's up towards the ceiling, okay? And unless I run into Lurch and he hangs over me, I'm not pointing the gun at anybody, all right? So I can run, still not pointing the gun at anybody, all right? Now I'm running, not pointing at anybody, not flagging, not muzzling. I have control of the gun, and now it's still a quick press out. And I have more awareness of what this gun is doing. Again, it's something that you could debate for a long time. I know there are people out there that really push the temple index. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I prefer to stay down in here because now I can run, right? This is how we run. We move our arms. It's part of the whole process. It aids in running. If I'm up here and I can only move this arm, all right, that is going to affect how well I can cover that distance. If it didn't, then sprinters would run like this, but they don't, okay? So I want to get all the arm movement I can. I do similar things with the carbine. If I want to sprint over a distance, I'm going to carry the carbine so that I can move my arm, all right, that's carrying the carbine as well. So keeping it here, all right, keeps in my vision. I know I'm controlling it. I know I'm not flagging anybody. And then it's still presented out. Some of the same risks as temple index, right? Because it's still that same orientation, whether I stick it up here or I'm carrying it here. But this is much closer to this, right? So I'm in my compressed position or I'm up here. All right. And as I level the gun out, it's on this track still. Instead of from up here, I've got to come down and push it out on the track. All right. So things to consider with how you run your pistol. All right. But literally and figuratively, think about your manual of arms. Okay. Test it. Get out on the range and move to different positions. I know it's tough to get ranges where you're allowed to move, but there are ways of getting around it. Obviously, if you go shoot competition, you're gonna have to move. There's very few competition stages where you get to shoot from a stable, static position. Even if you are staying in one spot, it usually requires, level changes and things like that. That out of the way, if you go shoot competition, you're gonna get your opportunities to move. So if you don't do a lot of movement in your practice time on live ranges because they don't allow for it, then that's your time to go do it. So understand that and focus on your movement. Don't worry about winning the stage at that point. Focus on the movement aspect of it, right? Have somebody video you so you can watch yourself, and then talk with the people running the range, talk with the RSOs, and see if you can just do like dry practice movement, when the competition day is done. See if there's an empty bay where you can go work with somebody. All right, depending on where you're shooting, they can be pretty helpful, or maybe not, so don't go shooting there anymore. If you are working at a static range where, they got the benches out and you're supposed to stand in your stall and just shoot. If it's an indoor range, you're probably gonna get a hard no. If it's an outdoor range where you just got the overhang and the tables and there's not really sectionalized stalls, there's not a lot of the people at the range. You can talk with the RSO, be like, hey, can I sit up like here, right here, and then like a few target points over, and I just want to like shoot, and then I'm just gonna walk over here and I'm gonna shoot, and then I'll walk back and I'll shoot. You're probably gonna get told no at first, but if you demonstrate safe handling, proficiency with your marksmanship and all that, you might be able to work with the RSOs that are there if the range isn't busy, and just walking 6 feet, right? Gets you to work your footwork and then work these positions based on what the RSO is comfortable allowing you to do, all right? It's a way to try and get around it. But the cool thing about movement and manual of arms is you don't actually need to be shooting, right? You need to shoot eventually, otherwise you get false positives in your skill sets. But you could sit up in your garage, right? And you don't even have cones. Like you throw bottles of water down on the floor, right? Or you got weight plates or anything, right? Solo cups. And you can just move between those points, and then you can work that manual of arms. So you can tell yourself, hey, I'm gonna act like I've got somebody in front of me, so I can't just keep the gun forward. And so I'm gonna work those different positions and test to see what is most efficient for you. You could also work keeping the gun leveled straight out as if there is no one in front of you. So you're in the front of the stack, you're working solo or shooting competition, and work those angles, because then in competition you have to think about the 180 rule. All right. In real life, there's no 180 rule. So if I'm going to turn and move behind me, I'm just going to go to one of these positions. All right. And that's going to be fine. If I'm in competition and I turn up range like this, vast majority of places can be like, nope, you broke the 180. Even though I didn't point my gun at anybody and it was pointed up at the sky or down the ground, that doesn't satisfy those rules. And I got to do something like this, all right, to keep the gun pointed down range and not at myself. So work all those different aspects of your handling so that you are, one, ready for competition, because you should go shoot competition, right? It's a good way to test to see where your skills are at and how well you can handle the pressure of being on the timer, being under observation, and there's definitely gonna be people better there than you. There's always somebody better than you, unless you're JJ Rakaza, all right? Always somebody better than you. So go shoot competition, and so learn how to work in the competition world, but then also learn your practice as I'm gonna be in a gunfight, right? Whether you are military and you expect to be in a gunfight overseas, which we should always be training for. If you're law enforcement, you should always be training for that worst case scenario. And if you own guns and you carry, then you should train to be in a gunfight, right? If you're not mentally prepared to be in a gunfight, then don't carry. If you're not prepared to actually use your firearm, then don't carry one. Because if you're not prepared to use it, there's no point, okay? I'm all for ownership. I'm all for people having guns, all right? All that's good. But if you're not actually prepared to use it in a defensive situation, then don't carry it outside your house. Because if you're not prepared, you're going to do something that's more of a risk to yourself and others than to the actual threat, the actual problem, right? So anyways, guys, long video. That is going to be about kind of manual arms of just different ideas for carrying the pistol. All right. Again, there's no one in front of you and there's no need to check your muzzle. All right. Away. The gun should be leveled straight out. That way it's faster on the target because you're just doing things sooner. Okay. And I'm always ready to fight from right here. If I need to avoid muzzle sweeping people, all right, I can check down to this sole position. Or especially if I want to haul ass from point to point, I can go up like this and I can run and I can move much faster than if I do this or I do this. But you can check between these positions, do your own testing, all right? Find out what is most efficient for you, not what's most comfortable. Test to see what is most efficient for you, all right? And I'm willing to bet you're gonna find that this is more efficient. Train it, have fun, stay dangerous.